Good evening, everyone. My name's Miranda Leach, and I'm a lecturer at City University of London. I'm a midwife by background. So I'll start off by saying, for medical advice, I won't be doing any of that. This is more about creating awareness and giving us some background information so that we can look after ourselves as women better, but I won't be giving any medical advice. So please, if you ask questions relating to medical advice, I'll prefer for you to see your general practitioner as opposed to me telling you information as to what you should and shouldn't be doing, because I'm not here to prescribe anything or any form of treatment to anybody. Okay. During the course of the presentation, my camera will be off to preserve the bandwidth. So I'm going to switch that off now. And at the end of the presentation, I think it will be an open platform where we can have a bit of a discussion and answer questions that you may have. So the presentation today is the effects of menopause on women of color. So I think it's important that we actually look at what menopause is. Now, for different people, the menopause will start at different stages of their menstrual cycle. But research actually says that for most women, it happens between the age of 45 and 55. So this is a general figure, but there are times where women may become menopausal earlier than the age of 45. And there are times where some women may actually hit the age of 55 and still not necessarily be menopausal. So the menopause basically is when your periods stop due to lower hormone levels. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail as to what those hormones are. So sometimes it happens earlier, naturally. There are some things that could induce early menopause, i.e. if your ovaries are removed or if your actual uterus is removed. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Or if your actual uterus is removed, which is what we call a hysterectomy. But there are times where women are offered what we call a partial hysterectomy, especially if maybe they're late 30s, early 40s, and you don't want them to have early onset of menopause. And by a partial hysterectomy, what I mean is the actual womb itself can be removed, but the ovaries may actually be left in place so that it doesn't trigger early menopause. Cancer treatment, such as chemotherapy, can also trigger early menopause, but then sometimes it's just for other genetic reasons. It may be hereditary. It may be that in the woman's family background, everybody has early menopause, and therefore that is normal for that particular woman. But sometimes research actually says that the reason is completely unknown. Perimenopause is when you have symptoms before your periods have stopped. So normally perimenopause is the period of time that's leading up to a woman actually saying, I've now reached the stage of menopause. For you to say, I've reached the stage of menopause, it means that in the last 12 months, you haven't had a period at all. So your periods have stopped coming completely over the last 1 year. Some of the symptoms of menopause or perimenopause are things like, you've heard people say brain fog, anxiety, there's mood swings, hot flushes, especially during the nighttime, irregular periods. Now, these symptoms can start years before your periods actually stop. So anywhere between the age of, well, if the research says between 45 and 55, you may start experiencing these symptoms, but continue to have regular periods, or not necessarily regular periods. It depends, because women will complain of different things. Some may have hot flushes, but still have regular periods. Some may not have hot flushes, but may have irregular periods. So the symptoms are varied and vast, and everybody will experience it in different ways. Menopause and perimenopause symptoms can have a huge impact on people's lives, including relationships and also your work relationships. So there are things you can do to help with the symptoms, and there's also medicines that can replace the missing hormones and help relieve your symptoms. Basically, what they say is happening during the menopause is that normally women have two hormones that work with sexual appetite and also work with the reproductive development. And these two hormones are estrogen and progesterone. So around the time of menopause, what starts to happen to a woman is that both these hormones are actually on the decline. So some of the things that a woman can do to help with the symptoms of either menopause or the perimenopausal stage up until the time where you actually reach the stage of menopause are to eat well. So a healthy diet is encouraged. We're also advised to be a little bit more active, to look after your mental well-being, because obviously anxiety and depression are also some of the symptoms that some women who are menopausal may present with. And also, if you drink or you smoke, they say you should stop doing both these things. So the do's list is to also get plenty of rest, including regular exercise, eat healthy. Also, they say in your diet, you should include things that are rich in calcium, exercise regularly, but the exercises that are really recommended are weight-bearing exercises. And the reason why they emphasize on weight-bearing exercises is to try and encourage your muscle density, because women who are actually going through the menopause are known to be predisposed to what we call osteoporosis, which means the bone density or the muscle mass is actually diminishing. So weight-bearing exercises and also activities where your feet and legs support your weight, like walking, running, or dancing. They also say things like yoga or deep meditation are helpful because it might help you to relax. Talk to other people going through the same thing, like friends and family. And that's another thing for Black women. We often don't come out and speak to family members or friends about the sorts of things that we're going through. We tend to keep it all bottled up, whether it's a myth or fear of being stigmatized. We tend not to do that. But women who are actually going through any form of challenging situations are encouraged to vocalize it, especially other women in the same age group that might be experiencing the same symptoms, so that they can be a source of encouragement to you. Now, for easing of mood swings, they say that CBT, because I've mentioned exercise and rest before, CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, might be useful. That is a type of talking therapy that can help with low mood and feelings of anxiety, and it can also help with sleep problems. And a GP will be best placed to refer you for CBT if you think that it might be helpful with your menopausal symptoms. For hot flushes, what they encourage is that we wear light clothing, keep your bedroom cool at night. They say have a cool shower, use a fan, have a cold drink, because all those things are meant to help you to be able to sleep better at night and also to help with the hot flushes. Other things are to avoid spicy food, which quite a lot of Black people, whether African or Caribbean, are known for including in their diet. We eat a lot of spicy food, but when you're menopausal, they actually say that spicy food could be one of the triggers for hot flushes. Caffeine, they also say to keep that at bay. Hot drinks, smoking, and alcohol I mentioned previously. But a key thing is that if you're actually overweight, you're encouraged to try and lose some weight. I talked about estrogen and progesterone being on the decline, and the fact that those two hormones help with not just your reproductive development, but also sexual activity. So one of the things that might be happening to a woman because these hormones are reduced is she may experience vaginal dryness. So she's encouraged to use either moisturizers or lubricants. A lot of it can be bought without a prescription at the pharmacy, so it can be bought over the counter. But if you're not sure, you can ask a pharmacist in private to help you out. They also say that if you have sexual intercourse and you normally would use a condom, don't use oil-based lubricants because these will actually damage the potency of the condom. So you're encouraged to use water-based lubricants. I can't see this, what I've said at the top of this PowerPoint.
Can help you protecting against weak bones.
Okay, so this is a bit of talk around osteoporosis and the prevention of that. So regular exercise, which I mentioned before, weight bearing, but also eating a healthy diet. But this time around, apart from the calcium, which we know helps with our bones, they encourage lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, and green leafy vegetables, like kale is one of those sorts of vegetables, is also quite good. It's rich in iron, but it's also rich in calcium content. Now, one of the things that the research has said recently is that Black women in particular are predisposed to having vitamin D deficiency because of the lack of the sun. So if you are going through menopause, you're actually encouraged to try and take vitamin D supplementation because that will also help with your bone density. And then there's HRT, which I'm coming on to on the next slide, that is talking about hormone replacement therapy, which can reduce the risk of osteoporosis. So that is the main treatment. The main treatment for menopause and perimenopause is HRT, hormone replacement therapy. So because estrogen and progesterone are actually declining, you need to be given these hormones artificially, but the main way in which it's given, the GP is the one who would normally decide which is best suited to you by you talking about your symptoms, etc. Estrogen is given through skin patches or gel or spray that's put on the skin. It can also be an implant. It could also be a tablet. So estrogen in particular is to replace your body's own level around the time of menopause. If you still have a womb, if your womb's still in place and you're not somebody who's undergone a hysterectomy, you'll need to take progesterone because this will help to protect your womb lining from the effects of estrogen. Taking estrogen and progesterone is called HRT. Progesterone comes as patches as well, but it can also be given as part of a combined patch together with estrogen. It can also be given through intrauterine systems like a coil or a tablet. They say that if you have a low sex drive because of menopause and HRT doesn't improve it, you may be offered to testosterone. Now, somebody may actually be asking, why do you need to give a woman testosterone? Because most of the time testosterone is more prominent in a male than in a woman. But testosterone actually, men are meant to have better bone density and muscle mass than women. So if you give that to a woman, you're actually helping improve her bone density and muscle mass. But what you're also doing when you give a woman testosterone is you're actually helping her sexual function, because men tend to, without offending anybody, but men tend to have a higher sex drive than women. So by artificially giving a dose of testosterone to a woman, you are trying to counterbalance out the fact that her estrogen and progesterone levels are now quite low. It also apparently helps with cognitive function. It helps with mood swings, and it also gives a woman a little bit more energy around the time of menopause. So that is part of HRT, hormone replacement therapy. I've said that in a nutshell without the PowerPoint. They say that there's a bit of risk with hormone replacement therapy, but in honesty, what they actually say as well is that the risks far outweigh the benefits. Most of the time, the risks around using HRT for quite a lot of women is maybe increased weight, sometimes unwanted hair, and I think there's one other symptom that I can't really remember offhand, but I know weight increase and hair growth are two main factors. There are also some other medicines that can be given. Non-hormone medicines can be useful, but some of the non-hormone medicines are things that have not been medically proven to actually work. But they also say that for hot flushes and night sweats, there's a blood pressure medicine that can be used, and there's an epileptic medicine that can also be used as well. So some medicines that are given to people have a counter effect, i.e., a woman may actually feel that she hasn't had the symptoms of menopause. And amongst ourselves, sometimes you speak to another woman and the woman's saying, well, I've never had those hot flushes that everybody's complaining about. But then on the counter side, she may actually have hypertension and is already on hypertensive medication. So that is actually not allowing her to experience hot flushes or night sweats, irrespective of the fact that she is actually going through menopause. I think I've said that. Now, if they normally advocate for the fact that if you have gone to your GP and you've actually been diagnosed as having menopause, or you are perimenopausal, you need to return to your GP or nurse for your HRT follow-up or review after 3 months. So generally, a woman will go to the GP every 3 months. When you see your nurse or your doctor, you agree if the treatment plan is working, and if it's not, they would normally choose to give you something else. But you would see your GP after that, once you've got a treatment that is working well for you, at least once a year. Now, during the reviews, your GP or your nurse may ask you if your symptoms are under control. They may ask you about any side effects, about vaginal bleeding. They'll check your weight and your blood pressure and review the type of HRT you're taking and make any necessary changes. You may need treatment for a few years until most of your menopause and perimenopausal symptoms have passed. They're complementary therapies, such as herbal remedies and compounded bioidentical or natural hormones, but they're not recommended for symptoms of menopause or perimenopause. This is because it's not clear how safe and effective they are. People also talk about red clover and black. These are herbal remedies, but there is no strong evidence that they work. So we started off by looking at the symptoms of what menopause is, defining menopause, and also talking a little bit about what treatments are available to you. But we want to look at the effects on Black women, women of color. So what is the difference between women of color having menopause and our counterpart Caucasian women? So there's a research that's been going on in America for a period of time. It's a study of women's health across the nation, which is called SWAN. So it's a decades-long study which has been examining the health of midlife women across different ethnicities. Now, that research actually says that Black and Latino women enter menopause earlier. And apart from the fact that we are likely to enter menopause earlier than Caucasian women. We also have longer lasting and more intense symptoms. So what the research is basically saying is that if a Caucasian woman is saying that she's having hot flushes and a Black woman is saying that she's having hot flushes, our symptoms of the hot flushes are much worse. Other things that we report bother us a lot for Black women is that more than anybody else is the hot flush and night sweat. Hispanic women have complained more about vaginal dryness, urine leakage, and increased heart rate. So different things have affected Hispanic women, and different things have affected Black women. But the reasons for this at the moment is still unknown because the research is actually still ongoing. Generally, what they're saying is that when Black women actually, or Hispanic women actually go through the menopause, we are going through it for 9 to 10 years, whereas our counterpart Caucasian women may only have 6.5 years. So there's a vast difference with a Black woman trying to deal with the symptoms of menopause. Also, apparently the average age for a US woman is about 51, but the average age for Black women is slightly earlier as well. And Black women also apparently have irregular bleeding for much longer than counterpart Caucasian women. So Black women are 3 times more likely to experience premature menopause. Menopause, which is before the age of 40, is what we call premature menopause. Sometimes it's caused by smoking, but sometimes it's also caused by autoimmune conditions such as lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, compared with white women, leading up to 40% higher risk of developing coronary heart disease over their lifetime. So what I would advocate for is that as Black women, we really do need to look after ourselves, because there's a lot of things that are affecting us probably that we don't know, and it's still unknown because the research is still ongoing, whether it's family setup, whether it's the stress levels that we're exposing ourselves to. But either way, we experience menopause earlier, and we're, because of various underlying conditions, at risk of developing coronary heart disease 40% higher. So it's almost twice the amount, or because 50% is half, so 40% is twice the amount of our counterpart Caucasian women. So an important thing to note from the SWAN study is the fact that racism, stress, and menopause are all meeting together. So obviously the study has been done in America. A lot of Black people may be undergoing some kind of racism in their work environment, which may be causing them stress. And therefore, that might be part of the things that are triggering an early menopause. If I'm to bring the study back home from the US to the UK, I would say that the figures are probably similar, because racism exists here as well. And it's important that in their research, they've actually picked up that racism, stress, and menopause are all meeting together. Because really, while the research is still ongoing, they don't know the reasons why this is happening, why we are becoming menopausal earlier, and why our symptoms are lasting for longer. But obviously, stress is being picked up as a very important factor. Also, I would want to add to that perhaps it's health inequalities or access to healthcare. Sometimes in certain situations, you find that people might also be illegal in a system, or it could also be affordability, especially in a place like America where healthcare is not free. People are not actually looking after themselves properly or accessing medical intervention in a timely manner. But this is the research, this is what I can find. about the difference between menopause in Caucasian women and menopause in a Black woman. So the person who's conducted the SWAN study is called Albert, and he has actually called for an holistic load, which refers to the wear and tear from lifetime and ongoing stresses that Black women disproportionately face compared with white women. I think anybody on this platform can identify with that there is systemic racism. It includes poor access to healthcare, toxic work environments, unsafe neighborhoods, socioeconomic challenges, and more. And it can weather the body, overtaxing various hormonal and biological processes and fueling chronic inflammation. And this can lead to long-lasting health ramifications, including an earlier or more challenging menopause. Okay, so I'll stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Miranda. Very thorough. We really appreciate you. One of the things you said, the difference for Black women, Black and Latino women enter menopause earlier and have longer lasting, more intense symptoms. You also mentioned that Hispanic women are more likely to report feeling bothered by vaginal discharge, urine leakage, increased heart rate, whereas Black women frequently cite hot flushes and night sweat. And this was according to the study SWAN. You mentioned also that Black women are also 3 times more likely to experience premature menopause before the age of 40. Quite interesting. And sometimes it is caused by smoking, autoimmune conditions such as lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, compared with white women, leading to a 40% high risk of developing coronary heart disease over their lifetime. So thank you very much for all those information. And now it's time, if there's any questions, any comments, please just let us know, and we will we'll get them answered by Miranda. I think there was a question I saw, if I can pick it up. There was a question.
Somebody called Shola Babs. It says, is it true that women feel invisible changes of menopause before they can see the physical ones? It's difficult to define what invisible is. I think what I read is that they're varied and vast symptoms. So symptoms in conjunction with, i.e. hot flushes, and at the same time experiencing irregular bleeding and what was some of the other symptoms of head. If it's invisible, it's invisible. So you're not having any symptoms, and one day you will just say that your periods have stopped. But if you don't have symptoms to treat, then it's invisible, and I can't say. I can't define what invisible is. Does anybody from the audience have the answer to that question?
That's why I read it somewhere, a long time ago when I went on a course. And I don't really understand that invisible in terms of menopause. That's why I said maybe you will understand better.
Yeah.
So, and the women will understand better if I ask that question. That's why I'm sorry.
You can't have invisible changes because you're either having periods, which means you're not menopausal, without any other symptoms, or you are having symptoms and you are saying something's happening to me, something's changing. If not, a woman would just get up one day and say, well, my periods have stopped coming and I had no warning. And then she would go and check and she'd be told that you've gone through the menopause. But even for younger women who are experiencing menopause a bit earlier, they know because it starts with irregular periods, etc. Something would be happening for a woman to know that she's going through the menopause. I don't know if it can just be invisible changes happening without you knowing. Unless maybe you're really, really young and you just haven't realized that it's happening. Like, i.e., there's been instances where a woman is pregnant and she doesn't know she's pregnant. So something maybe not making you realize that you are, but you are, and you find out a bit later.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sorry, okay, I just wanted to buttress what Miranda said.
Okay, go ahead.
To answer that question, and in line with what Mr. Shola Babs, the question, during your talk, Miranda, thank you very much. That was very, very deep and very thorough. And I think most of us will learn so much. But you said something which I think answered that question, which is the fact that some women are on some kind of medication, for example, like you said, that's already masking the effects of the menopause or the menopausal period within their body. So they may not really know, like you said, maybe somebody's on gabapentin or because I wrote it down, or blood pressure, some kind of blood pressure thing, which is really masking it. So they are going through the symptoms, but they are not realizing it, and they could wake up. So such person may say it's invisible because they are not thorough in the knowledge, or they don't know that what they are taking is maybe, like she said, the symptoms do differ from people. Some have it severe, but like she said, and from the little I've read so far, I'm not a clinician, obviously, the little I've picked here and there, there's no way you wouldn't go through a symptom. There's something that you've gone through. It's just that it's being masked by one thing or the other. I just wanted to buttress what you said, when you said, is anybody from the platform that wanted to add to it. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Reverend Dolly. Thank you a lot.
You're welcome.
There was another question for you,
Said,
Miranda.
could one of the reasons for earlier onset of menopause in Black women also be that Black girls usually start their periods earlier than white girls? I'm not sure that there's research to say that Black girls are starting their periods earlier. I think it's varied still. I started secondary school in Nigeria, but I came here as a teenager. And I can actually say that in the high school that I went to when I came to the UK, there were still girls who were saying that they'd started their period at the age of 9. Some had started their periods at 10 or 11. So I can't really see that there was a difference. And I don't think there's research out there saying that. But I stand to be corrected. But I don't think that's the issue.
Thank you so much. We've got somebody who was put, there's somebody in the audience who'd like to ask a question. Go ahead, please, Pastor.
Yes, I want to ask a question, please.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a woman, I'm a man.
Yes.
How do I manage? How do I manage if my wife is going through menopause? How do I manage her?
Well, thank you for coming on the platform.
Because we are not in the same level. I'm not having menopause. So how will I be able to manage her?
Sorry, before you answer that question.
Yes,
there's menopause as well.
Before you answer that question, because I wanted to actually ask, this issue of premenopause or menopause has been an issue in various homes because men don't really understand what it is, and probably women are not able to explain it to their husbands in such a way that they will understand. What advice do you have for men?
Well, firstly, I want to thank you as men for coming on the platform, because educating yourself is halfway to actually solving the problem. Now, when your wife is having mood swings, you need to be a bit more patient. You can help your wife a little bit more around the house, or sit down with her and ask her, what is it I can do? I understand this is how you're feeling. What can I do to help you? You know, all women want most of the time is to be heard by the man. And you just sitting to ask somebody, what can I do to help you, is taking a huge weight off her shoulders. I don't know. Some women in the audience, what would you, if any of you are actually menopausal or going through the menopause, what do you think your husband can do to help you? Because you'll be best placed to answer this question.
What help do you want from us?
Yeah, because there are men here who have actually come on the platform to educate themselves. At least now you know some of the symptoms. Don't go and put the heating on in the room saying you're cold when you know your wife is going through menopause and she's going to be having hot flushes at night. Bear with her if she opens the window. Don't go, oh my God, this woman, she's opening the window too wide again at night and I can't sleep. Be a bit more patient, a bit more tolerant, because now you know what some of the symptoms are.
Okay.
Help her go for walks. Go for an evening walk with your wife. Be a bit more patient if she doesn't have as high a sex drive as you do.
Thank you so much. There's another person putting up their hand. Oh, is that Reverend Dolly? Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, please. I just wanted to help our men.
Thank you.
to understand us. Basically, if you're not in that,
we need help. Help us, please.
Yeah, we are trying to. Basically, you know, when I was growing up, I grew up in a polygamous home. And then my mom, then I remember she was going through some changes in her body, and my dad didn't really understand it. But years ago, before he passed on, he realized it, and he was saying things that, oh, if he had known then that these reactions, because sometimes they just think we are frigid because we lose interest in sex. You don't have the drive, you know. So one of the things is become, a woman's mind is connected to her emotions generally. Become with the woman, you know, reassure her, because if there are changes in her body that most of the time, these changes we don't even understand. Sometimes there's mood swings, sometimes there's flashes, you know.
Mood swing, yeah.
Sometimes there's
that is laughing.
Now we can't understand.
We
just,
you
can't understand. And you may think you may think we are pretending. Just be more gentle with us, be more subtle. Then when you get to the bed, prepare us, let us relax, because the body is going through so much. Let us relax. I know, men, you just want to do your thing and go. But for us, it doesn't happen like that. Miranda has already said everything about the lubricants. Years ago, when I hear things like lubricant, I'll be thinking, what is wrong with them? Until you get to that situation, there's nothing wrong. Go to the chemist and buy off the shelf lubricants for your wife. It's not, she's not being funny. You just think, what's wrong with you? You are just sitting on. And most of the time, because of these changes, most of us pretend that we're enjoying the love making. We are not enjoying it because it's tight. You know, so let us relax. For me, I'll say let us relax. Everything that Miranda has already said, to be honest, there's nothing to add to it more than the practical aspect for the men to be patient with us. You've had this now. We all go through it, and it's not that we are pretending or we want to be funny or we've lost interest in sex or we are seeing another man or we don't like you again. All those things that you start giving us No, it's not.
Wow.
It's not. There are changes. So please help us to relax, have a warm bath, make the room pleasant, just to relax the mind and speak to our body. Yeah.
I'm trying.
Please.
I wear socks. I'm trying.
Anyway, that is it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pastor Dolly. Miranda, you've got some more questions.
Yeah, there's another one saying what factors can cause premature menopause. I think we kind of covered that. Sometimes chemotherapy, other medication, other underlying conditions were part of what I had said can cause. But then obviously I said, like, if you take the womb out or if you take the ovaries out, those kinds of stuff can trigger premature menopause, but also sometimes it's just purely hereditary. But like we've also discovered that we can work in a toxic environment or live in a toxic neighborhood, etc., that might trigger stress, and all those are contributory factors.
And then there's one from Coral.
Yeah, Jada put a comment, very educative for women of color, as there isn't enough info plus the stigma attached. So more awareness for non-health professionals and Black women.
Yeah.
Somebody else, where's Carol's comment?
Okay, go. Somebody else say thank you for such an interesting talk, especially hearing about the physical impact of the stress.
Yeah.
resulting from systemic racism
yeah.
on a woman's body. And we know that as Black women about the, experiencing racism, but that's quite interesting, Miranda. Thank you so much. Paula's
Paula.
asked
Yeah.
another question, please.
You said, can women get pregnant 1 year before menopause starts? Yes, you can. And it's been known to happen because some women begin to think, oh, I'm safe. I can't get pregnant. And suddenly you are. There's hormones that are still circulating. They might not be as regular, but there's the estrogen and progesterone are still circulating. It's just that they're on the decline. So you can still get pregnant. There's nothing to say that you can't.
That's absolutely true because my mom had me when she was almost 50. So there you go. And next
What are
question,
the best
Miranda?
books or literature we can buy to give to our partners or husbands as a gift?
That's a good
well, I'm
one.
not sure. I didn't look at that information as to what books, but I'm sure if you did check on Amazon, you might be able to find something. But I can look and then send those through to Pastor for you or Auntie Olga.
Thank you, darling. Next question, sweetie.
Someone's put a suggestion that to increase foreplay and more attentiveness and supportive at home with the children will be a useful thing for their wives.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jada, for that.
Yeah.
I hope the men are listening.
And Carol said communication is key. How do we break down the barriers to explain what we're going through? Yeah, that's also linking to the stigma that's attached to it. Sometimes women as well want to hold on to the fact that a part of me isn't missing and that, I'm still young, I'm still active, everything's fine. But unless you admit it to yourself that you are going through these changes, something else, and that something is actually happening, you're not going to seek help.
Yeah.
Breaking down the barriers is I don't know where we start. There's a lot of different things that are going on in workplaces at the moment because now the government have picked up, especially things around brain fog. I don't know recently if you followed the case of a lady who went missing on the news, and 2 days later she was found, and they did say that she was menopausal, she was experiencing brain fog. But how far the government are actually supporting in putting things into the workplace, I'm not sure. But how many women are actually going to come forward to say, I'm not able to perform in my day-to-day duties, especially in the workplace, as I usually would have been because I'm going through menopause, is another thing that I'm not sure women will be likely to do, because nobody wants to feel that, everybody at work should feel sorry for them because something isn't quite right. It's almost like something's happening to you, but it's an invisible thing to other people and you're the only person going through it.
Sorry, what advice do you have for them?
This is it. I don't know. There's lots of things in different places where they say, oh, we're trying to break down systemic barriers. But at the moment, all I can say is there's more awareness, but how to actually break it down, I don't know. A lot of places are saying they're doing things to support. Whether it's actually visible, I don't know. It's just like saying that, how do you get rid of racism? I mean, how long is a piece of string? So I think that what it is for each individual is where there are barriers to what you're going through, you're going to have to find a way of, like Carol said, communication is key. Find a way of escalating what the problem is so that you get appropriate help.
Well done. Somebody else has got their hands up.
Yes.
Is that a legacy, Anne, or is that another question, Pastor?
Yes, I'm just disturbed because is it curable? Is it curable? Because I'm just worried because if you actually see when women are going through
disease, so
it's very sad and very, very.
Yeah.
Is it curable?
It's not a disease. Like I said, there's treatment that can help with the symptoms like HRT, hormone replacement therapy. So that should be able to help with some of the symptoms.
Okay.
But it's actually a natural progression of a woman's life. So
okay.
every woman will go through it in different ways. And that's why when you said, is it curable? It's just a phase that a woman's going through, just like a woman gets pregnant and for 9 months she's pregnant, you're going to have to live with that physiological and psychological and emotional changes that she's going through over that 9 months period. For some women, a pregnancy is very stress-free and they like being pregnant. For some women, they don't like being pregnant and they have a lot of complications in the pregnancy. But it's a normal process until the woman gets to the time of, you know, having the baby. So as with menopause, it is something that every woman at some point in her life will go through. And the support network around the woman is vital to help her to be able to cope. So it's not a disease that is curable, but it's how we actually manage the process going through the menopause until it actually stops. So there's the perimenopause, which is all these symptoms, the period stopping, and the symptoms lasting for some women longer than other people, etc. But at some point it will stop, because someone put a question here. Samsung, I don't know who that is. It says, does menopause stop? Menopause is the period completely stopping. Perimenopause is all the symptoms that go along with it. But the menopause is also a period of time until all the symptoms would normally end. Someone says, at what age does a woman outgrow this period? We said that the general research says it's between the age of 45 to 55. So somewhere around there, most women would have gone through the menopause. But there are people, like we said, that start from the age of 40. And we've also said that for Black women, the symptoms are a bit more intense and can last a bit longer. Yeah. So roughly they're giving it, textbooks are giving about a 10-year marker, but for Black women, it could be longer and it could go on for a bit more intense. It could be, the symptoms could be a bit more intense, sorry. Yes, but if they say between the age of 45 to 55, that's a rough guide for, so for about 10 years of a woman's life or thereabouts, that should be happening.
Yes, somebody has mentioned, somebody has made a comment, Miranda, saying every woman is unique and every woman's experience menopause and its symptom differently.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think there's a new message. Let's see what it is. Yes, the question is now, what's HRT and how can one get such therapy, especially living in Nigeria?
Okay. Like I said earlier, HRT is hormone replacement therapy. Now, when you get to the point of menopause, basically estrogen and progesterone, which are responsible for your reproduction and also sexual health, are on the decline. So hormone replacement therapy is trying to give artificial estrogen or progesterone, and sometimes also even testosterone. Yes. As for how you get it in Nigeria, I'm not sure, but I do know that every drug that is available anywhere in the world is also available there. It just might be a bit more pricey, but I'm sure that there are gynecologists and obstetricians there as well who will be able to, more so not obstetrician, gynecologists who would specialize in these kind of areas and be able to signpost you accordingly, I'm sure. Because Nigeria is quite an advanced system.
Thank you so much. Any more questions? Any more comments? Shola, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I send the text. Anyway, I can still say it. If possible, can Miranda tell us a bit about menopause? Sounds like a joke, but it's not a joke.
I don't know about menopause.
Because we're here to learn. I mean, the
reason why I'm saying I don't know about menopause is because I know that men, even at the age of 70, can still father a child.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what menopause is for men.
That's a menopause. That's I mean, I read something about it, like relate to testosterone, or how do they pronounce the medical word? Is it testosterone or something?
The testosterone.
Yeah, they say it's related to testosterone, like men also go through that at a certain age in life. So women also need to understand that. So I think.
So is that
Men,
where you're going?
are you
Maybe because
listening in the house?
maybe if it's about muscle mass or about bone density, everybody at some point, unless you're lifting weights all the time, will experience some form of muscle loss and density, muscle loss and bone density loss. So if it's about that, and if it's about energy, yes. If at a certain point a man's sex drive is low, I don't really know. But those are the things that menopause, testosterone is responsible for. But I don't know what menopause is because I've never really explored that word before.
I think the men are just trying to feel important.
No, Reverend, I'm serious. It's about sex hormone testosterone. That's what I read about, to be honest. Yeah, anybody can just read about it and say, it's honestly, it sounds like a joke. It's not a joke.
Mr. Shola, tonight is for the women. Please leave the men.
Andropause. Andropause is defined as a symptom associated with decreasing sexual satisfaction or declining feeling of general well-being with low level of testosterone in older men. So that is probably what you're talking about, is it?
Maybe related to that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Some more questions, Miranda.
Esther's put that men mostly suffer from muscle reduction and energy. Yeah. That's all to do with testosterone. That's to do with the testosterone hormone.
And there's a question about, is when your period stop, menopause starts?
Yes.
And then Esther has asked, they most suffer from muscle reduction and energy. I guess she was talking about that menopause. Yes. Any more questions, any more comments before I hand over to Reverend Dolly? Reverend Dolly, you've got your hands up.
Actually, thank you so much. I've actually got a question that's nagging in my mind from some of the write-up I read about the reduction of estrogen, right? And being kind of confused as arthritis. Yeah, and it presents with like everything you said, the weakness of bone density or whatever, and then they misdiagnose women to say they've got arthritis during that period. And then I found out that some reports, some people say during the premenopausal period, the period could come heavier, or it could suddenly starts being scanty, maybe you miss it, but some people, for that 12 months period that you're saying preceding it looks like some people experience heavy period and weakness in their body and bones and everything, and their doctors that because from all they said, they just think they've got arthritis. Is there anything you can say about that, please?
Not really. I mean, obviously, osteoporosis, women are at risk of that because of the loss of, I said, bone density, etc. The hormones that are circulating are on the decline. As for misdiagnosis, because I'm not a GP, I can't really say. It could be that a GP who's not very well trained is not really checking and asking the right questions and identifying it as, okay, this is due to the menopause, and is being quicker to diagnose you as having arthritis and give you arthritic medication, as opposed to really fully understanding what the woman's presenting symptoms are. But I wouldn't like to speak because I'm not a GP, but yeah. So women have to be really clear about what it is they're presenting to the GP with when you're actually giving what your symptoms are.
Okay, we've got a few more questions. I'll breeze through these because I know we're coming up to closing time. And also, how are men to respond, especially when this issue, disinterest in sex and all sort of mood swing and crankiness? I guess that's not just a comment. Yeah. And then Coral say, thank you, Miranda and Olga, for interesting session. Unfortunately, she has to leave. Good work. Marcia says, Evelyn Primrose helped me to go through the 20 years period of symptoms very gracefully. Another comment or question, does this premenopause come into play earlier, especially at childbirth? Cause this sex matter or great factors affecting most homes and lack of understanding or explanation of how they feel.
Having children as well does have hormones circulating around, and at that particular time, it doesn't necessarily mean that a woman is going through menopause, but sometimes women who have just had a baby and their emotions are all over the place, they haven't had enough rest looking after a newborn infant as well, can sometimes be disinterested in sex. It's up to the men also to be a bit more helpful, you know, with the newborn infant. And, you know, people have said a lot on the platform, i.e. foreplay, helping out with kids, ensuring the woman gets rest. But I think somebody said very cleverly that sex doesn't just start in a bedroom for a woman, it's psychological and emotional as well. So, I mean, men just need to be a bit more patient and really speak to your wives, find out what's happening from them.
Thank you so much, Miranda. I'll hand over to Reverend Dolly to close. Thank you.
One or two
Hi,
questions
Olga.
Sorry. Hi. Did somebody ask a question? Sorry.
Hi, Olga.
Hello.
I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna elaborate quickly on something. I know we just kind of use the word mood swing. It's better to kind of let people actually know what mood swing actually encompasses, so that men can probably identify what we actually meant by mood swings.
Okay.
It's just about, I mean, when someone is a bit edgy, is a bit irritable, is a bit intolerant, because men would pick this up
when they are swinging all around.
When what it means that mood swings is not just that you see, but these are things that might be picked up, but if you don't actually understand what is meant by mood swings, so that you don't know, so that your wife may then actually display some intolerable, unusual behavior or responses, become a bit snappy at times. And yeah, so that we kind of get it quite clear for men that are listening on the platform.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Abiola. Thank you for your comment. Reverend Dahl.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abiola, for that. And I just want to start by really appreciating and thanking everyone that's tuned in tonight to benefit, obviously, from this very impactful and knowledgeable and very thorough and succinct presentation from Miranda Leach. She's a lecturer at the City University. Thank you so much. Really appreciate this thoroughness, and you went really deep into it.